Hello, and welcome to today's show. I am Brenda Holt, the Associate State Director of Community Outreach for the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 members across the nation and over 900,000 right here in Arizona, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment, to name a few. During the month of August, we will be focused on Thrive in the Job Market, where we will showcase AARP's relevance as a wise friend and fierce defender, helping workers find a job while fighting on their behalf against ageism. We will provide tips, advice, and resources to help you stay competitive in the job market and mitigate the impact that the corona pandemic has had on employment and income. Navigating today's ever-changing job market can be tough, but we're here to help you through it. Go to aarp.org/work for tips, tools and resources on how to stay competitive in the job market. And you can also visit us at aarp.org/az to find out about more events such as the ones that you will be participating in today and to find out about job resources. Be safe, be well. Thank you for attending today's program.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. My name is Marshall Shore, and I am your host this evening, as always. So happy that you're able to join us on August 5th. So welcome. Now, I know some of you are joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Now, one of the cool things I think about Twitch is if you just go on to Hip Historian, it actually archives the last two happy hours. You can also go on Facebook if you want to find some of the older ones as well as they are all archived on YouTube since we've been doing this for over a year. So we have all kinds of stuff there for you. Now, you know what's going on today. So actually tomorrow, back in 1879, was the first ice machine installed in Tucson. It was purchased by a local lawyer from San Francisco. The day it arrived, by 4 o'clock, it was making ice in Tucson. I'm sure that was such a welcome relief for all those folks. Now, you know, it is also National Clown Week, so we can celebrate all those clowns. As I'm wearing polka dots. Also, it is National Underwear Day. I am not going to ask if you all are participating in National Underwear Day. There's some things better left to the internet. As well as today is Green Pepper Day. So I hope you all have gotten your daily dose of green peppers. Cindy, no clowns. You disappoint me. So what can you expect from tonight's show? Well, you know, we always have our little bit of music trivia. We do some show and tell. We have Little Arizona talking about a small town, as well as some trivia. We have a beverage for tonight, as well as a very special guest. Now, if this is your first time watching, you might be wondering, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, I moved here about 21 years ago. Before that, I was living in Brooklyn, and I was working in this beautiful Carnegie building and decided that it was time to trade that for the Wild West. And so we loaded everything we own into a big orange cube. And you know, I think it's really cool that they have their worldwide headquarters for U-Haul right here in the Valley of the Sun. And to do all that, I started working in South Phoenix at a little library that opened its doors back in 1950. It's now in a much spiffier looking building. And you know, there was this rich oral tradition of the community in terms of how did they get to where they were today. And so that was one of the influences that really got me looking at that modern history of Arizona. Now, we promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch. Now, when we moved in, it was oh so many tones of beige, and it is happy to say now it is two-tone seafoam and cantaloupe. And there's what my kitchen looks like today. A sea of buttercream yellow tile, that matching yellow in the wall oven with the push buttons for the stove inset in the wall as well. You know, I love the house because it is truly like stepping into a time capsule. Now, when I first got here, all I kept hearing about how there was no history here. But I knew that wasn't true because every time I went somewhere, I came faced with so many amazing people, places, and stories. And that's really what I attribute to kind of doing what I am doing today, as we just get to share lots of stories around. Now, also, I think that post-war boom, in a lot of ways, created the Arizona that we all know and love today. All those GIs that either were stationed here, trained here, or those that passed through on their way to somewhere else. After the war, they were moving here in huge numbers and looking for houses just like mine and maybe yours. Now, I'm also called the hip historian, and that means I get to have a lot of fun with Arizona history. And so this weekend, I'm actually out at the MIM, and I'm sure we'll talk about where I am going to be next weekend. So this coming weekend, actually Saturday and Sunday, doing programs with the MIM on Arizona music history. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I see some of you already have found the chat session. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or email. If you miss that, you can also, I will ask, if you're on Facebook, there is a little share button. If you could click on that, I would so appreciate it. So that way all your friends can see how much fun we are having with Arizona history that so many people think is kind of boring and nobody wants to talk about. Little do they know how much cool stuff there really is. So little Arizona, you know, I mentioned being from Brooklyn, but I actually grew up in Indiana in a little tiny farm town of about 25 people. And so that really kind of gave me, you know, moving from a little town to New York City, where actually there were more people on the floor of my apartment building than in my entire town. So I like that experience of big city versus small city. And so we are going to talk a little town called Dudleyville that is in Pinell County, has a population of just over 1,000, and was founded back in 1881. Now, originally it was called Wharton City, with no idea who Mr. Wharton was, but we do indeed know who Dudley was. So Dudley Harrington was a rancher and also owned the station for the stagecoach that would come through, and Dudley was a family name. So he decided that that should be the name of the town. Now, Dudleyville has been prone to floods in the mid-20s, the early 80s, and the early 90s. And a nearby town, Winkleman, they had Winkleman Flats, which was the lowland, that was all turned into a park. And that's what we see here. That bridge that crosses over that park and all the beauty that's there. Now, they also earlier this year they lost about 1,100 acres with the Margot fire, but there is still plenty to do in that area. Why, the history comes back with that ranching, and you can go visit the Double Check Ranch, hang out for the day, look at some cattle, play with some chickens, maybe even ride a horse and wrangle some cows as they run across the countryside. And when you're tired of all of that and ready for something else, you can take a chance and gamble at the Apache Sky Casino, which is part of the San Carlos Apaches, and is also the sister casino to the Apache Gold Casino. But if you really want to go hang out in style, you're going to go to the Aravapa Farms, Orchard, and Inn. It has such a history of a labor of love that started really with Arabian horses. The orchards came in '84 when a gentleman moved his family from California. They decided to plant some trees. The inn came about because a woman was tired of big city living and restaurateur. She wanted to create something that was very farm to table. And so that's just what she did. And so they created Aravapa Farms, where you can even stay in a Airstream trailer. So go check it out. Yeah, Pam, they did have really bad fires there. But I still want to let people know that there are still things in the area. So even though they did have some disaster, they probably need your help more than ever right now. Now, it would not be happy hour without a beverage. And, and PJ does not disappoint. And so we are going to be talking about the town of Gilbert very soon. And so he decided that we should be imbibing. And let's see if we can. Oh, there we go. So you can see my silent bartender over there. So PJ is really good at it. And so this is Gilbert Tower Lager. And it is from Wilderness Brewing. And so one of the cool things is that you can pick this up in downtown Phoenix, but also in Gilbert. So they have a wide variety of things. I almost picked up a beer that was made with apples. Oh, and I'm a really bad pourer. Okay, we're going to let that sit for a little bit because I should not try to talk and pour at the same time. Oh, actually, that's not as bad as I thought. Well, we're still going to let that sit for a little bit. All right. Yeah, because that would not be very good to enjoy right now. All right. So I am happy that we're going to be able to talk about Gilbert. So, and we're going to do that with the miracle of modern technology. And today we're putting it through its paces because we had a little minor glitch just before we started on my end, but we are cooking with gas as always. And so I am going to bring on my friend Denise. Oh, wait a minute. We don't need him. His job is over. He didn't even pour the drink. I mean, he gave me lots of foam.
Yeah. Three's a crowd.
Exactly. Much better. How are you doing today?
I am well, Marshall. How are you? Other than you're poor, how are you?
I'm really good. So thank you so much for joining us. And where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from the offices of HD South, which is home of the Gilbert Historical Museum. We're located on the corner of Gilbert and Elliott Roads in Gilbert, Arizona.
Nice. And so are we going to talk about some Gilbert history?
Yes, we are.
Wow, Gilbert has history? That's pretty amazing.
I know, shocker. We have some great history. I might be biased, but yes, we have some great history in our little town.
So, all right. So we normally, when we do trivia, you can keep track of it on your leg, on a notebook, whatever makes you happy. And look, my beer has gotten to a point where I can actually, and it was really cool. They had one that you could actually get. It was made with apples that had been smoked at Joe's Barbecue.
Yes.
But they were out of it, which I wanted to try that one. I'm like, oh, dang. So I'm going to definitely have to go back for that.
Yes. Come back. We'll do another show.
And indeed, we could do one live from Gilbert.
Yes.
All right. So as we move on to some trivia. All right. So Gilbert was known as what during World War I? A place to buy beets. B, hay shipping capital of the world. C, water tower USA. Don't be distracted by my beer just because it has the water tower on it. Or was it known as Bobbyville? All right. So while you're locking in your final answer on that, we're going to move on to our second question. Gilbert was incorporated on July 6th of what year? Was it A, 1899, B, 1907, C, 1941, or D, 1920? What year was Gilbert incorporated? All right. Gilbert is named after William Bobby Gilbert. True or false? And Sarah is just down the street from the Historical Museum. Very cool. All right. Moving on to question 4. The first homestead filed in Gilbert was in 1890. True or false? All right. Moving on. What is the oldest building still standing in Gilbert? A, HD South, the Gilbert Elementary School. B, Joe's Real Barbecue, where they smoke apples for some sort of beverage. C, the Hale Theater, or D, Dutch Brothers? I sure hope it's not D, but I don't want to give away any answers. I'm just hoping that it's not D. All right. Not that I'm giving away any clues either. I don't want to be seen as biased or trying to curry favor with anybody. Not at all. All right. 6. What famous country singer called Gilbert home in the 1940s? A, Conway Twitty. B, Bonnie Campbell. C, Johnny Cash, or D, Kitty Wells? Which one of those country singers called Gilbert home in the 40s? All right. The first high school in Gilbert was built in 1932. Is that true or false? The first high school in Gilbert, was it built in 1932? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, I like the little shrugging of the shoulders.
We'll soon find out.
Indeed we will. All right. What was the name of the Sonny and Cher movie filmed in downtown Gilbert? A, Hitchhiking Mama. B, Meet Me in Arizona, C, The Salt River Scandal, or D, Chastity? Which one of those movies featuring Sonny and Cher was filmed in downtown Gilbert? All right, question 9. The annual Gilbert Days Parade has only been canceled twice. Is that true or false? And in what year was the Agritopia area first homesteaded? A, 1927, B, 1901, C, 1888, or D, 1963? All right, so what year was Agritopia first homesteaded? And I have a feeling part of the answer will even be describing what Agritopia is for those of you that might not know that it's a really cool place. Oh my gosh, and we have some bonus questions. Look at that. All right. Who is from Gilbert and was also Miss USA in 1980? A, was it Jane Lynch? B, Rose Mofford? C, Janine Ford? Or D, Linda Carter? So which one of those ladies was Miss USA in 1980 and called Gilbert home? And our final bonus question, how many different species of birds have been identified at the Riparian Preserve? A, 690, B, 345, C, 289, or D, 154? How many different species of birds have been discovered at the Riparian Preserve in Gilbert? Oh my gosh, we're taxing your mental abilities right now. And while you are figuring out whether you want to choose, was it B? Was it D? Could have been C. But there's also A. They were all good choices. So we're going to talk a little bit about Arizona music history. And so we are going to talk a little bit about Glenn Campbell. Now, Glenn was actually born in Arkansas. His music career started in his uncle's music band off in Albuquerque that led him west. He worked in Hollywood for a while with musicians there that were called the Wrecking Crew. They did a lot of work with different musicians. He also replaced Brian Wilson on the road with the Beach Boys for a very short period of time and soon found himself in country music. Now, he is known for such songs as By the Time I Get to Phoenix, Wichita Lineman, Rhinestone Cowboy. The list of hits go on and on. And if you go to the MIM, the Musical Instrument Museum, they have a great display to Glenn Campbell up on the wall. So go check it out. And you can even check out me Saturday and Sunday morning at the MIM. All right. So now we're ready for some answers. Are you ready, Denise?
I am ready.
All right. Very good. Oh my gosh. So our first question, Gilbert was known as what during World War I? And it was the hay shipping capital of the world. A.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
So much alfalfa was shipped from Gilbert during the First World War that Gilbert became nationally known as the hay shipping capital of the world. It really put us on the map as an agricultural center. So the picture that you saw was a wagon load of baled hay, which had been pulled to the railroad tracks by the 4 horses. And then once at the boxcar, the men would load the hay on the train and it would be sent off to places nationally and internationally. And it was used for livestock, but mostly to feed the cavalry horses. Because as you know, in World War I, they were on horseback. Cavalry was big. So yeah, we were known as the hay shipping capital of the world. And Charles Blakely, who was a Gilbert businessman, he was big in the Chamber of Commerce. He was the founder of Blakely Motor Company. He actually coined that phrase, and a newspaper picked it up and kind of spread it around. And that's how we became known as the hay shipping capital of the world in World War I.
Wow. And I'm assuming with a name like Blakely and choosing headlines like that, he must have been good at marketing.
Oh, he was very, very good at marketing. Yes, he was.
As we all know, those Blakely glasses that are oh so familiar.
Yes.
All right. Question 2. Gilbert was incorporated on July 6th of 1920.
Yes. So 100 years ago, last year in July, we had our centennial. So what happened was the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors granted the petition of the residents of Gilbert to incorporate, and that happened on July 6th, 1920. Interestingly enough, the population at the time we were incorporated was 865 souls. And in Arizona, just to kind of put it in perspective, the population was 334,000. And in Phoenix, the population was 29,000. So we were sitting at 865 and Phoenix was at 29,000. So, and so last year when we celebrated our centennial, our population here in Gilbert was a little over 260,000 people. So we've grown a bit in 100 years. Yeah, right? Just a smidge.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the newspaper articles that was written about our incorporation said that Gilbert was located in one of the richest sections of the Salt River Valley, and which that's true. And that helped us to make that hay shipping capital of the world title as well, because you could grow so much. I mean, it's extremely fertile valley with lots of water and such. So our first town council, it was George W. Lyons, Nathaniel Noel, Everett Wilbur, Joseph Porter, and Edward Stoner. So all of those gentlemen were leading citizens and property owners of the town. And Everett Wilbur was actually our first mayor of Gilbert.
Wow. So I guess, in the middle of COVID, it probably was not a huge celebration. Hopefully you're continuing the celebration.
Oh, yeah. The party never stops in Gilbert. We just keep it going.
Oh, that is so true. All right. Gilbert is named after William Bobby Gilbert.
Yes.
And that is true. So who is William Bobby Gilbert?
So William Gilbert, his nickname was Bobby. He liked to go by Bobby. He was born in Missouri in 1861. He was an expert on horses. And when he was 16, the owner of a string of racing horses suggested to Bobby that he travel with his outfit as a groom. So Bobby accepted, and over those next 8 years, the job took him through the United States, Mexico, and he even went to London. And as Bobby would tell it, he made a name for himself at a fancy racing stable just outside London. He was known as the Yankee and the fellow that wore the velvet pants, because his pants were corduroy. So they called him velvet pants. So then later, Bobby worked at cattle ranches in Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, California. And during this time, his parents moved to Arizona for his mother's health. That was, very popular remedies. Go out to the dry heat of the desert and it'll cure what ails you. So they moved out here and they settled in Mesa, and Bobby joined them out here in Arizona around 1892. And in 1898, he filed a homestead patent, and that was on a section of land located what is now in the Heritage District in downtown Gilbert. So he never actually lived in Gilbert, but he did file a homestead patent here. So in 1902, Frank Murphy, who was with the Phoenix and Eastern Railroad, he approached Bobby, asked him if he would sell the right-of-way to the railroad so that they could run the railroad from Phoenix to Winkleman. And they wanted to build a spur on that property. And the spur is when you have the extra part of the track that you can pull the train off of. So anyway, Bobby agreed to sell, and the spur was built, and they named it the Gilbert Spur because it was from Bobby Gilbert. And then in 1905, they built a depot, named it the Gilbert Depot. And that was how the town of Gilbert was born. So
I guess better Gilbert than Bobbyville.
Yes, exactly.
which you could have wound up with as well.
Yes. Yeah. So interesting about Bobby. I mentioned that he never did live in Gilbert, but he was known as somewhat of a dandy. He never married. His first love, as the story goes, was not acceptable to his mother and father. So he gave up the ghost on love and decided he was not going to get married. So he was known to dress in fancy cowboy garb, and he would stand in front of Everybody's Drug, which was a store in downtown Mesa. And people would walk by, and they just loved to see Bobby Gilbert standing there in his bandana, knotted at the collar of his Western shirt, and he always had a chaw of tobacco. He was medium height. He was slim. His hair was kind of reddish. So kind of the epitome of potentially a drugstore cowboy, as the term is affectionately known. So, yeah. And he actually passed away January 1st, 1945 at the age of 84.
Wow. And his velvet pants.
In his velvet pants, the Yankee in the velvet pants.
All right. The first homestead filed in Gilbert was in 1890. And that's true.
Yes, it was. And it was actually filed by Arizona's 7th territorial governor, who was Conrad Meyer Zulick. And he was appointed by President Cleveland, and he served the Arizona Territory from 1885 to 1889. And his homestead claim was recorded on December 20th, 1890. And if you're familiar with our area, it's located where what is now Val Vista and Warner Roads, that intersection. So during his term as governor, he was actually the one that was responsible for moving the capital from Prescott to Phoenix.
Ah.
Yes. Yeah. And interestingly enough, so on his homestead, he planted palm trees. And when that area was being developed, in order to preserve the trees, the Gilbert Historical Society in 1998 relocated those trees to the corner of Val Vista and Warner and placed a monument there. So you can drive by and see Governor Zulick's palm trees, and you'll see the monument, and the three ladies are standing there. And yeah, so that's from his original homestead.
How cool is that?
Yes.
Nice. All right. What is the oldest building still standing in Gilbert? And oh my gosh, it's the Historical Society. It's the Historical Museum.
Yes, it's where I am right now. Exactly.
All right.
We are the oldest building still standing in Gilbert. We were built in 1913 and served as an elementary school, actually, until 1977. And then in 1982, it opened as a museum. And that's what we are today, the Center for Arts, Culture, and History in Gilbert. It is the only building in Gilbert on the National Register of Historic Places. The land was actually donated by Everett Wilbur, who, if you remember in a previous question, was Gilbert's first mayor in 1920. So our original building had 4 classrooms. It had a large central assembly room, 2 small offices, and then a large entryway into the building, which when you visit us, you'll actually be entering through that same exact entryway. There was also a large basement, and we still have that large basement. So our building had no indoor plumbing. There were 2 outside toilets, and then there was a well that was just south of the building, and that provided fresh water. For heat, there was a furnace in the basement, and that was below the assembly room. So the furnace would give off the heat and it would heat the building. But no air conditioning in the old school. So, in 1917,
hopefully that has changed by now.
It has, yes, it has, yes. And we have indoor toilets too, so we're on a roll.
All right.
Yeah. And actually in 1917, our north wing was added, and that wing had 2 basement rooms and then 2 above ground rooms. And then in 1925, the south wing was added, and that had 2 classrooms, no basement. And then in 1927, the bathrooms were added. And then in 1940, the school expanded again, and a small 2-room building was built just to the west of our main building, and it stands separately, still on our campus, but it stands a little separate from the rest of the museum. And something to note when you come to visit us, the original wood floors are still in the building, and in some of the exhibit rooms, you can see the original slate chalkboards.
Oh, very cool.
Yes.
Nice. Part of the benefit of being in an old school is those old chalkboards.
All that cool stuff. That's right.
And I love how it's still education focused. That's what it started with, and that's how it's still operating, which is pretty nice.
Exactly.
All right. So what famous country singer lived and called Gilbert home? And it was Bonnie Campbell. And she was no relation to Glenn Campbell. That's why I actually just talk about Glenn Campbell, because there was no contact.
No.
No.
Yes. So Bonnie Campbell was from Gilbert. She was a graduate of Gilbert High, and she wed Buck Owens. If you remember Buck Owens, another famous country music star. They got married in 1948. Bonnie actually had quite the career. She went on to win the Female Vocalist of the Year award by the Academy of Country Music in 1965. And she also won a top vocal dual award with her then husband, Merle Haggard, in 1967. So Bonnie was married to Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. And she was a country singer star in her own right as well.
Wow, they dated like royalty.
Yes. And she was credited with actually helping Merle Haggard's career really get started and really help make him a star. She was a backup singer for him. So
wow.
Yeah, a little touch of country.
Indeed. All right. So question 7, the first high school in Gilbert was built in 1932, and that is false.
Correct. That is false. That is not true. It was actually built in 1918, and it cost $125,000 to build the high school. It was 2 stories tall. It had classrooms on both floors and a very, very large auditorium. So prior to then, all of the Gilbert students who wanted to advance their education, go on to high school, had to go to Mesa to get that high school education. So in they had to go to a different district. So because we didn't have a high school. And then in about 1915, some of the elementary school teachers started teaching the high school courses. So they taught them to the interested kids that wanted to, get more education, and they taught them on the steps out of the elementary school out here. That's where they held their classes. And the first graduating class had just 4 students in it.
Wow.
Yes. And so that class graduated in 1918, and the building hadn't actually been done yet. So they didn't actually graduate out of that high school building. So instead they held the graduation ceremony on a platform that was located at the west entrance of the elementary school. So, yeah. They made do. They wanted to graduate. Those 4 youngsters, they stuck to their guns and graduated. And even though it was on a platform in front of the elementary school, they did it.
Well, there's that Arizona gumption for you.
That's right.
We're going to make it happen.
Yes.
All right. And what was the name of the Sonny and Cher movie filmed in downtown Gilbert? Chastity.
Yes. So downtown Gilbert did turn into a movie set location during the filming of Chastity. That was in 1968. So the movie starred Cher, Barbara London, and Stephen Whitaker. Those were the headliners of that film. Many Gilbert townspeople were actually extras in that movie. And the movie was written by Sonny Bono, who was present in Gilbert during filming. So this was actually Cher's first dramatic film. Yes, she played a lonely young girl who is hitchhiking across the country in hopes of finding someone to love her and make her forget her disturbed past. And she was going to find it in Gilbert.
And and I watched the trailer for it, and I it was so funny because I didn't even realize that she had been in Chastity.
Yeah.
I mean, it then became the name of her child.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and they loved the Western look of downtown Gilbert, and that was kind of the draw. And because we have our, the Western facades on our buildings downtown, and so they came to Gilbert and filmed, and we actually have visitors that come into the museum and remember, when they were here filming and got autographs of Sonny and Cher, and so.
That's one of the fun things of so many movies have being filmed here or currently being filmed here. I know my friend Deb shows up and is an extra in a lot of different movies. I've got friends that go and see old family members that have passed away because they're immortalized on celluloid forever as an extra in tons of movies. So
Yes,
that's really
absolutely.
cool that Gilbert can add that to their list.
Yes.
All right. Question 9. The annual Gilbert Days Parade has only been canceled twice. That is true.
Yes. And if you don't know, Gilbert Days Parade, Gilbert Days is a big event for us in Gilbert. We love our Gilbert Days. It is tons of fun. And so, yes, it's only been canceled twice. The first time it was canceled was when President Kennedy was assassinated in November 1963. So they erected a stage in front of the American Legion, and the town had a memorial service for President Kennedy. And actually, Governor Paul Fannin, who was supposed to be the Grand Marshal of the parade that year, instead, he became the keynote speaker at the memorial service. So, yeah. So that was the first time that it was canceled, when President Kennedy was assassinated. And then the second time was last year, 2020.
Indeed. Lots of things got canceled.
Yes. Couldn't get together in large groups. So 2020 is canceled. But actually, the Gilbert Days Parade has been in existence since 1956. It was originally held in May in conjunction with the Cinco de Mayo celebration. It was called Gilbert Goodwill Day. And it had a big parade, marched down Gilbert Road. Later, it was changed to Frontier Day, and it was held in November. And then finally, in 1963, the event was changed to Gilbert Days, and it includes a multi-day. Today, it includes a multi-day rodeo, a parade, of course, a Pony Express ride, tons of other fun events. So, yeah, we're looking forward to going off without a hitch this November.
Indeed. All right. And what year was Agritopia area first homesteaded? And that was back in 1927. So for some folks that might not know what Agritopia is, how do you describe Agritopia to folks who've never seen it before?
Agritopia it's very, very unique. It's a walkable, friendly neighborhood that is complete with its own services. Everything that you would need, you can find in Agritopia. So there's also, so they have the cute houses that are all, right next to each other, and the streets are set up to where you can walk. And then there's a farm. It's an organic farm. They have restaurants. They have shopping. They have a senior living center. They have a school. They're getting ready to build Epicenter. They're working on that now. That's going to be opening very, very soon. That's going to have more spaces to live, and then more retail. It's just a really, really cool neighborhood. And it was a vision by Joe Johnston. And so interestingly, that area was first homesteaded. For people who don't know, that's on the northwest corner of Ray and Higley. So it was first homesteaded in 1927, like you said, by the Reber family. And then in 1960, it was purchased by Jim and Virginia Johnston, and they raised their 3 sons there. And their son, Joe, who, you know, from Joe's Real Barbecue, he became an engineer, and he really spearheaded the design to preserve the urban agriculture in a neighborhood setting. So the evolution of that entire area began in 2000. And it's continuing on today, like I said, with the development of Epicenter, which is going to be the mixed use, upscale kind of development. And that sits on about 20 acres within Agritopia. So I encourage everyone to come check it out. It's really a unique, neat neighborhood. And one of the restaurants out there, Joe's Farm Grill, if you eat there, you will actually be dining within the 4 walls of the original Johnston family home. It was preserved on that property.
Indeed. And there's a photo of the restaurant that was the family house, which I think is a great way to just kind of, you know, keep that history. And you walk in, it feels really homey. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's some great food there as well.
Yes, indeed. We Gilbertonians love our food.
Oh, that's true. I mean, you've got the Liberty Market, you've got the little coffee shop right there next to Farmhouse.
Yep. We got Bergie. I mean, we have tons. This is a dining destination from far and wide. People come here to eat. We've got
and Wilderness Brewing.
Yes, Wilderness Brewing right there. Yeah.
All right. So now we have our bonus questions. In case you missed a couple of questions, here's your chance to redeem yourself. So question 11, who is from Gilbert and was also Miss USA in 1980?
Yes.
And Janine Ford.
Right. So Janine Ford was a local TV news anchor. She's also an actress and a businesswoman. So she graduated from Gilbert High in 1977. And in 1978, she was crowned Fiesta Bowl queen. And she later went on to be Miss Arizona. And then she went on to compete in the Miss USA contest, and she was selected as first runner-up. But in 1980, when the original winner of the Miss USA contest, she was selected to be Miss Universe. So Janine got the Miss USA title. So
I was actually watching her coronation, and I was like, oh, now this is going to end. And she doesn't get it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was fed the wrong answer. What's going on? And then I was like, well, how did that happen? And then I started reading about, Miss Universe.
Yes.
So Bob Barker didn't lie.
No, he did not lie. And something interesting about Janine, I mean, she was, Miss USA, she was a pageant girl, but while she grew up in Gilbert, she participated in rodeo barrel racing, gymkhana events. She was a member of Future Farmers of America. She raised calves on her Gilbert farm. So, she's a homegrown girl. So yeah, she was our Miss USA.
Wow. All right. And then question 12, our last question. How many different species of birds have been identified at the Riparian Preserve in Gilbert? And it is C, 200, almost 300 different species of birds. That's a lot of species. Yes,
it is amazing. The Riparian Preserve, I encourage everyone, if you have not gone, you need to go check it out. So in 1999, that's when the Riparian Preserve was developed. So there's 110 acres, 70 acres of that actually make up a water recharge basin. And those are filled on a rotating basis. And then they're with treated effluent. And then they're allowed to percolate into the aquifer where it's stored for future use. So not only is it a wildlife habitat, we're also processing the water, and we're using it for, for future use. So there's ponds, there's streams, there's a lake that's filled with reclaimed water, and that is actually a designated urban fishing resource through the Arizona Game and Fish Department, so you can fish there. And what's really neat is the riparian preserve, it's organized into various vegetative zones. So you can see everything from marshlands to a native riparian and upland vegetation areas as well. So you really get the whole, it really runs the gamut of the wildlife habitat. So yes, approximately 298 species of birds have been identified on the site. There's tons of many different varieties of insects, fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals. It's just a really great wildlife refuge. There's 4.5 miles of trail, over 4.5 miles of trail, and they kind of weave through the park. You'll see interpretive education panels on wildlife and vegetation. There's also some really neat viewing blinds that have been set up. So if you are a birder, I seriously encourage you to come over. Yeah, because there's blinds, so you can get behind the blinds. You can whip out your binoculars, check out all the different species that are here, and those are located on the edge of the ponds, so you really get a feel for the wildlife that's out there. There's a really cool floating boardwalk that crosses the northern end of the lake, and you can get a really close-up view of the fish in the water and the ducks that are on the water, so that's really neat. There's an ethnobotanical garden, there's a paleontology dig site, there's gardens for pollinators like hummingbirds and butterflies, and that's really, really special. And then there's also a state-of-the-art observatory and a hilltop outdoor classroom. All of that crammed into the riparian preserve. Crazy.
How did I not know about the observatory? Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's amazing.
Wow. All right. So I guess it's like, I love how people already are saying, hey, they already know kind of the drill in terms of the next question is, how did you do? And people are already posting their scores saying they have more to learn. And it's easy. Although I do love how Sarah somehow got 11 out of 12 because she lives right down the street from the museum. That probably helps.
Yes.
She may have been there before. So, but, I always tell people, it's not how many you get right or wrong. It's what you know by the time we close the show down. That's the fun and the beauty, is just that we all have shared so much.
Yes.
So what have you got cooking on Saturday? The 14th.
So we might just be having a special guest here on Saturday who might just be delivering a fantastic program about signage from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I think that person is you, Marshall.
It's me, exactly. So I am so excited to get out to Gilbert. It's been a while. So happy to get out there again. And as we talk about signage, and I have a feeling Liberty Market may work its way in there as well. You never know. So, yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully hopefully Sarah can make her way over.
Come on over, Sarah. Come on.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be great. And we're so excited to have you here. It's going to be a fantastic program, and I think everyone's going to really, really enjoy it. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you for tonight. This has been really great as you've been able to share some really cool stories about Gilbert.
Yes, I hope everyone enjoyed it. And please come and see us. We've got a lot of history. We've got a lot of art. We've got a lot of culture here. Tons of places to eat, great things to do outdoors. And I cannot thank you enough for having me on tonight. It has been an absolute blast.
Indeed. Thank you again. Have a great rest of your night, Denise.
Thank you. You too.
And I'll see you in a little over a week. All right.
Can't wait.
Indeed.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So now you know what I'm going to be doing men this weekend. Next weekend I am off in Gilbert. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. And, it's not really how well you did, but it's kind of, yes. And again, and thank you so much, Denise, for sharing so many great stories about Gilbert. And so now, in case you weren't quite sure whether you should click on that share button or not, now you know, yes, you should, because who knew almost 300 different species of birds being seen at the riparian preserve out there. I also didn't know there was there's over 4.5 miles of hiking, the trails you can do out there. So, all right. So now it is time for show and tell. And we are going to talk about, oh man, that's so funny. So this is a box from Goldwater's, which if I do it the right direction, you can kind of see that it's not, I didn't run a test. So it's yellow, not green, but I guess there's enough green in that yellow that it actually does green screen. So it's a box from Goldwater's. Now, if you think you know that last name, indeed you do, because back in 1964, Barry Goldwater ran for president. Now, the family had been doing stores since 1860 when they started off with a trading post out in Gila City. It then grew into department stores in downtown Phoenix. You also have Scottsdale in the early 60s, as well as in the 60s, you had at Park Central as well. It was acquired by another company back in 1963. And as we all know, kind of retail kind of took a little bit of a nosedive and people were buying things up, but they released it, and actually the family acquired it again and is now doing Goldwater Foods. So there are a variety of, especially Goldwater's salsas, that is still that same family that had, let's see if I hold it at an angle, although you can't really see then all the great cacti. I mean, that was real. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, if I do that. See, I mean, I just love those cacti, those suns, and actually the signature that was consistent through all the buildings. And so that was always fun. They were also home, since we're going to be talking about signage on the week. Next week, Goldwater's, as far as we've been able to track down, was the very first neon sign in all of Arizona. So hopefully, I will go into the mystery of what happened to the sign because we don't really know. All right. So next week we have Matthew Whitaker, who has been doing a lot of stuff with Arizona Humanities lately, has been doing stuff around the valley for quite a while. So excited to have him come on as a guest and kind of get history through his eyes. So that's going to be a really fun program. So that is next Thursday, same bat time, 7 o'clock, same bat channel, whether it's Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. Look forward to seeing you here. Now, if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, you can either throw them into the chat session here, or you can also feel free to throw them off to me in email. I always like to give a shout out to Cole and Chris, who did that amazing video at the very beginning, as well as PJ, who always, I love the fact, I didn't even know there was. I love the fact that the Gilbert water tower is now immortalized on a beer can. And I'm gonna hope, I bet I can get some of that apple smoked beverage when I'm out there. I'm gonna have to stop by the wilderness out there and get it. So, all right. So we are gonna leave you tonight. I was just in San Diego getting a chance to listen to all kinds of Polynesian pop. It was Tiki Oasis, so we were celebrating all kinds of fun things there. And so we are going to leave you with Mr. Hose Orchestratica, a Sunny Slope boy who's now on the East Coast. And so as well as some found film footage, some of it from my own archives, some of it just found through Library of Congress. So have a great night, everybody, and I will see you here next week.